Hello everyone. Thanks for joining. Today I wanted to talk about something that probably hits home for a lot of us: planned obsolescence. You know, that frustrating feeling when your phone, your fridge, or your coffee maker suddenly breaks down right after the warranty expires? It's like clockwork, right? We've all been there, shelling out hard-earned cash for something new, muttering under our breath about how they don't make things like they used to. Today, we're diving into what planned obsolescence really is, some famous examples, and then we'll unpack the debate around it. Is it a sneaky corporate trick, or is there more to the story? First off, what exactly is planned obsolescence? In simple terms, it's when companies design products to wear out, break, or become outdated on purpose, so you'll have to buy replacement sooner rather than later. It's not always about making stuff super fragile from the get-go. Sometimes it's subtler. There are a few types: technical obsolescence, where the thing just stops working after a while; stylistic obsolescence, where they change the look or features to make your old one feel ancient; and functional obsolescence, like when software updates make older devices slower or incompatible. The idea is to keep the sales cycle going, boost profits by encouraging constant upgrades. This concept isn't new. It popped up big time in the early 20th century as mass production ramped up. Back then, companies realized that if products lasted forever, people wouldn't buy more. So, they started engineering in some limits. Now, let's look at some well-known examples to make this real. One of the classics is the light bulb cartel from the 1920s. Major companies like General Electric, Osram, and Philips formed what's called the Phoebus Cartel. They agreed to limit bulb lifespans to about 1,000 hours, way shorter than what was possible back then. Bulbs could last 2,500 hours or more, but they dialed it back to sell more. This was documented in meetings and fines they paid, though the cartel eventually fell apart during World War II. Fast forward to modern times: Apple's iPhones. In 2017, Apple admitted they were slowing down older models through software updates to manage battery issues. But it meant your phone felt sluggish, pushing you to buy a new one. They ended up paying out hundreds of millions in settlements after lawsuits in the US, France, and Italy. Another sneaky one from the 1930s, DuPont's nylon stockings. The first versions were super tough. Women loved them because they didn't run or tear easily. But sales dropped since people weren't replacing them. So, DuPont tweaked the formula to make them more fragile, ensuring repeat buys. This came out in old company memos and employee stories. Cars got in on it too. In the 1920s and 30s, General Motors under Alfred Sloan started annual model changes, not for better performance, but for style. Your perfectly good car suddenly looked outdated next to the shiny new one with fins or whatever trend was hot. It was all about making you feel like you needed an upgrade. Printers are a modern headache. HP put chips in ink cartridges that expire after a date or page count, even if ink's left. Lawsuits forced them to pay out millions and change practices. Canon did something similar. Their printers would disable scanning if one color ran out, even though scanning doesn't need ink. Again, lawsuits followed. And don't get me started on non-removable batteries in phones and laptops. Companies like Apple and Samsung glue them in, making DIY fixes tough and expensive. It shortens the device's life to match the batteries, and now the EU is pushing laws to make batteries easier to swap by 2026. These examples show it's not just old history, it's happening now, across industries. But hold on, not everyone buys into planned obsolescence as a big conspiracy. There's a strong argument against it being a smart business move. Some folks call it one of the most economically clueless ideas out there. Here's why: if a company deliberately makes a crappier, shorter-lived product, they're basically gift-wrapping an opportunity for competitors. Anyone who comes along with something more durable, cheaper to fix, or just better value will steal customers right away. That's how chasing profits really works: you win by keeping people happy, not ticked off. The irony? Greed for profit is exactly what makes planned obsolescence a bad idea. Companies that deliver long-lasting stuff build trust, get repeat buyers, and dominate the market. Think about brands like Toyota or Levi's. They're known for reliability, and that's why they stick around. A company that sabotages its own products? They're just inviting someone else to swoop in and take over. In a free market, quality should rise to the top because that's what customers reward. Okay, fair point, but let's counter that. This argument might have held up better in the 1950s, when manufacturing wasn't as efficient. Back then, using materials was wasteful. Ratios like 10 to 1 or 20 to 1 meant you lost a ton of raw stuff just to make one item. Producing fragile goods cost almost as much as durable ones, so there was no edge in making junk. People couldn't afford to throw things away willy-nilly. But today? Manufacturing is way more efficient. Ratios are down to 1 to 1 or 1 to 3. Materials are cheaper, production is faster, and globalization keeps costs low. For a lot of products, folks prefer low prices over stuff that lasts forever. Why? Sometimes we're not great at valuing long-term durability, we want the deal now. Plus, things go out of fashion quicker than they break. Think fast fashion clothes or gadgets. You might use them a few times and forget. As a result, companies making tough, pricey items often lose out to cheap competitors. So, it's not always about plotting obsolescence, it's about designing products to just barely outlast the warranty. That way, they avoid returns and free repairs, but don't waste money on overbuilding. Neither makers nor most buyers care what happens after that warranty ends. If we slid back to a scarcity economy, where raw materials are super expensive, we'd probably demand longer-lasting stuff again. But right now, abundance rules, and cheap wins. Of course, there are exceptions. Electronic components, like chips or circuits, are mostly sold business to business. It's hard to predict how they'll be used, and clients have wild demands, so you can't skimp, you make them reliable as heck. What end products people build with them? That's another story. Low-end laptops are a prime example of cutting corners. They fail way before their parts do, and makers don't even hide it. There are rugged laptops out there, but they're pricey and aimed at pros. Professional gear is another big exception. We're talking stuff for experts, not everyday folks. Chainsaw chains from brands like Oregon or Steel, or work boots from Red Wing, they last because buyers are pros who research, share reviews in tight communities, and demand quality. Companies can't get away with junk there, they'd lose their rep fast. But even in these areas, there's a trickier tactic, the razor and blades model. Sell the main item cheap, sometimes at a loss, to hook customers, then rake in profits from pricey, quick-to-expire add-ons or consumables. It's like giving away the printer but charging a fortune for ink. A classic example is Gillette razors. Handles are dirt cheap or free, but blades cost an arm and a leg and dull fast. Nespresso does it with coffee machines, affordable pods, but you're locked into their expensive capsules. In the oil industry, it's similar with drilling equipment. Companies like Halliburton or Schlumberger sell or lease rigs and tools at competitive prices, but the real money comes from ongoing services, proprietary bits that wear out quickly, or specialized fluids and parts you have to buy from them. One story I dug up involves fracking tools. The base setup is subsidized, but the drill bits or prop pants, sand-like stuff, expire fast and are overpriced replacements, only they provide. It's not outright obsolescence, but it forces constant spending. Medical devices pull this too, cheap scanners or machines, but sky-high costs for disposable probes or software updates. Gaming consoles like Xbox or PlayStation, consoles sold near cost, profits from games and subscriptions that expire in relevance. This model thrives because once you're in, switching costs time and money. It's not always evil, it can subsidize innovation, but it does encourage built-in limits. So, wrapping this up, planned obsolescence isn't always a grand plot, but it's real in how products are designed today. It frustrates us when things break too soon, but in our cheap stuff world, it's often what we vote for with our wallets. The counter? Shop smarter, buy from brands with longevity reps, support right to repair laws, and think twice about that impulse buy. If we demand better, companies will deliver. What do you think? Have you got a story of a product that died suspiciously? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for listening.